Well, it sounds like you had a rough ride.
I mean, I've had worse, but today was like fairly bad.
Yeah.
I don't understand why there are times where you see like not much traffic ahead of the traffic that you're in, right? So like, let's say you see like a fleet of cars in front of you, but then in front of that fleet, there's like nothing.
Mm.
And you're like, why is everybody drifting? Like, why are we going slow? There's nothing in front. If there was a whole line of traffic for miles, that's one thing, you know, that's standstill, that's bumper to bumper, whatever you want to call it, right? But why are we drifting home? Why is it 5:15 on a Wednesday or 5:30, whatever the fucking time it is on a Wednesday, and you're drifting home? And you don't have to drift. That's my thing. It's like, why are you drifting?
Mm.
Why are you not going home quickly? Don't you want to be home on a Wednesday at 5:35 instead of wasting 25 minutes drifting to get home?
Maybe their wives beat them.
Dude, I'm starting to think.
So here's my question. Like, why aren't they getting into another lane? Like, if you want to drift, fucking drift on the right lane.
Yeah, and I feel like, you know, some of the roads that I have to take to and from work are essentially back roads through Bloomfield and stuff. And sometimes they're drifting in both lanes. So therefore I'm stuck and I'm like, why are we doing this? Like, I want to go home. Like, why don't you want to go home? Most people hate their jobs. I don't hate my job, but most people do. You would think that you'd be like, oh, let me fucking burn out of this lot. I'm going to fly fucking home. There's really not much traffic. I don't understand, dude. I really don't understand. It makes me want to just like pull up next and be like, hey, what do you like? Does your home life suck? Or like, do you not have anything to do to entertain yourself? Like when you get home, is your work life or is your road commute life better than your home life? Like I just, it's crazy.
You should pull up to a stop sign and just like do that universal like window rolling down motion, you know?
Yeah. And with
crank.
like I should do it with like a smile on my face. Like I'm about to make them like an offer or give them like, I don't know, $20 for free or something.
Yeah.
And be like, hey, yeah, check this out. Yeah, roll down your window. And then when they do that, I'm like, hey, you fucking moron, why are you drifting? Why are we on a lake? We're on a lake, we're attached by a rope, and we're drifting down the fucking lake or river.
Hey everybody, welcome to Will and Drew's Gaming Retrospective. You're listening to episode 45 for the week of October 6, 2019. I'm your host, Drew, and I am joined by traffic, angry guy. I just fucking made it up on the spot. Will, how are you?
I'm well, man. It's good now because I'm out of the traffic and, you know, now it's like an island thing.
You have a fine non-alcoholic Jamaican beverage.
I do. It's called a ting. And it's making me feel real good. So things are well, man. How are you?
You know, it's been a weird day. It's been a bit of a roller coaster for me. It's a gloomy, rainy, kind of shitty day. And I had really hoped that I would be able to get out and mow my lawn for hopefully the last time this season on my days off, either today or tomorrow. But it's not supposed to stop raining until, like, ever, I guess.
Yeah.
So the leaves are just going to sit on top of the grass, and they're just going to kill everything until I can get out there. So everything was going pretty good, and, you know, I was having a pretty lazy day. And then about maybe half an hour before we started recording, I decided to clean the cat box. Now, listeners of the show may be aware that I have two cats. We have Dax and Metro. And Metro literally was rescued from a train station. And, you know, so he's a street cat. His manners are not exactly what I would call up to par, but he's a sweetheart. Both my boys, I love them. They're the best cats in the world. And, you know, they're not bad cats. But Metro doesn't really know how to use the litter box properly.
How so?
So like if he goes in and poops, he doesn't cover it.
Oh no, he's one of those.
Dax will go in and cover it for him. But worse than that is Sometimes when he pees in the litter box, he pees outside of the litter box. So it doesn't really go in. So we've been kind of on top of this for a while because in our last apartment, there was like a piece of like vinyl flooring underneath where the litter box was. When we moved into this place, we have hardwood floors everywhere. There is no vinyl flooring where the litter box is. So we bought this like huge plastic tray to put the litter box on. And like, this has just been a never ending battle. Okay. So I was doing that for a while, and then I realized that, he was pissing so far off the tray that it was actually hitting the wall and going onto the hardwood floor. So we got these like piss pads to put underneath the plastic tray, and I got them kind of angled up on the wall to catch it. Well, apparently that wasn't sufficient enough, because when I was taking everything out and kind of cleaning the box, I pulled out the tray, there was piss on the hardwood floor. Oh. And that is... like, that's a nightmare. When Nikki and I were looking at houses, we actually went into a condo where the entire place smelled like cat piss.
Oh,
like,
no.
Legitimately, you walk in the door, you open the door, and as soon as you open the door, you smell that ammonia. It's so nasty, right?
Oh, it's so bad.
So this has been like a mission of ours to ensure that our home never gets like that. And we've gone through like every precaution that we think is going to take care of that. And somehow it's still not fucking enough, because this cat doesn't know how to use the fucking cat box.
Yeah, it's a real problem, man. When you get cat piss on something, you usually have to like burn that item or just completely dispose of it. Like, cleaning it can sometimes be just 100% a waste of your time, because it's just not going to come out.
Yeah, I don't know how we're going to get it out of the wood. She says that there's a way to do it with like baking soda or something. I guess she's going to research it. I don't know. And her company sells like products to kind of keep moisture in or moisture out. She works for a basement remodeling company, and their whole job model is dealing with moisture. So she seems to think that there's something at work that she can get that'll kind of like take this to the next level. Mm-hmm. But in the meantime, it's like, I literally, like half an hour before we're recording, I'm cleaning everything out. I got fucking Clorox. I got piss pads. I'm thumbtacking piss pads to the wall and layering them with the ones on the floor. So like, I have this wall of piss pads, and it like slopes onto the floor where there's piss pads on the floor. And then the tray is on top of the piss pads, and the litter box is on top of the tray. So there's like layers and layers of protection here trying to mitigate this situation. And I don't know if it's going to be enough.
It probably won't be, and here's why. As well as I do that cats are pretty sassy, and they can be pretty like rude when they want to be. And I think when they sense that something like that's going on, like knowing a cat, I don't know Metro well, but like I could see him like staring at you right in the eye and pissing like outside of that entire fortress of piss pads that you've created.
He's not like vindictive. He's just stupid. Like, he's like Derpy Cat, Like, he'll just look at you and just be like a complete idiot. And then he'll just rub on your leg. Like, hey, I love you so much. Thank you for saving my life. I'm going to go piss on the floor now. I don't mean to do it, but I'm still going to do it.
Yeah. Overall, man, like, I love cats, Obviously, we have a cat, as you know, and he's a little shithead sometimes. But
oh, he is.
In 5 minutes, you'd love him more than anything in the world. So, what you're going through is something that actually my sister and her husband went through with one of their cats. Like, some cats just have like pissing problems, and they also have just overall usage of their cat pans or cat trays, whatever you want to call it, the cat box. They have issues using it correctly. And it's just kind of the way that some cats are. It's a big thing.
I don't know how to break it.
It's tough. Like, I mean, it's just constant, like, mitigating, like you're doing now. And just, I don't know, like, there's really not much you can do. It's not like you can really train a cat. Like, hey, like, come on, come over here, like, piss in this.
I mean, there's people that have like trained their cats to piss in like toilets.
Yeah, that I think is kind of bizarre. I don't know if I feel that comfortable with that. I know it's probably fairly harmless. Well, it's probably very harmless, but like just the idea of like a cat jumping up on like a seat that I sit on and just like pissing would just make me think that like there's piss particles and droplets that it would be like scattering on the toilet that I would have to like disinfect. I don't know. My OCD would kick in and I'd be like, no, I can't have this. I'd rather have you piss on the hardwood floor and have me have to sell the house than you piss on a toilet that I use.
We need to have a conversation about like your mental stability, I think.
That's OCD, man. Like I'm weird with that shit.
No, I mean, I get it too, but I have it in different ways, so I completely understand what you're going through, man. You should just keep like a thing of Clorox wipes next to the toilet.
I guess so.
And just make sure you don't wipe your ass with them, because that would hurt.
Oh, Jesus, yeah. So just so you know, folks, this show is about video games. Don't worry, we're not changing the genre of the show. This is still a video game podcast. Sometimes I just have to remind Drew, and Drew has to remind me that that's what we're doing. And this is where I remind Drew that we have to talk about Comic-Con.
We do. Well, let me do some business first, and then do you want to dive into that? Or I actually forgot we had a couple mailbag questions too.
Yeah, you know what? Why don't we do business and mailbag, and then we'll jump into your Comic-Con experience.
Sounds good. All right, folks, thank you so much for hitting that download button. If you are listening to us for the very first time, we really appreciate it. Head on over to your favorite podcast application, hit that subscribe button. iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, Google Play, anything that you can get your podcast from. Check us out. We are on the web at www.wdgrpodcast.com. That's wdgrpodcast.com, where you can find every episode eventually. As I'm working on it, the backlog takes a little bit of time, but eventually every episode will be there, as well as our blogs and gaming thoughts and random posts and Music Mondays and all kinds of cool stuff. So we're got a lot of things that are going up on the site. Check it out. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at WDGRPodcast, at WDGRPodcast. Head on over to our Discord room. The link is also in the show notes for that and on the website. And Will, if somebody would like to say hi to you on Twitter, how can they do so?
Will_gear.
You can hit me up at ScionStorm. And thank you, everybody, again, for just making everything really great. It's been a very special couple months here, especially with Comic-Con. Man, Comic-Con was a lot of fun, but we'll get into that in a second. Let's open up the mailbag, shall we?
Yeah.
This actually comes from last week. Pucksword asks, I'm totally stealing this from the latest, quote, Gamers with Jobs podcast. What is your gaming mixtape? Mixtape. Like you're trying to throw together a few games to really communicate your taste to someone in gaming. That's a good one. I like that.
Yeah, I do like this. This is kind of like, I don't know, reminds me of, what does your book look like? When you think about your life, what does your book look like? And it's a pretty mind-blowing thing to think about because, without getting philosophical here, do you want to live a life that's boring and dull, or do you want your book to look good? So that just kind of reminds me of that. So, trying to throw together a few games. This would require a little bit of thought. As usual, I'm somewhat unprepared with the mailbag. I actually did miss that one because it was not from today.
Yeah.
However, you know what? I need about 1 minute for this one, Drew.
Yeah, I have a few like killer tracks right off the bat. I don't know if any of them are B-sides. These are mostly singles here. But Doom would definitely be in there. Mass Effect trilogy. If I had to narrow it down to one of them, I'd go with Mass Effect 2. Super Metroid. Castlevania. I'm trying to remember. I think it was Dawn of Sorrow was the first Castlevania game that I really got into. So that would be on there. Final Fantasy VII would be on there. Let's see here. Soul Calibur would be on there. Command & Conquer would be on there. I mean, it's really just a list of like all of my fucking favorite games. Colony Wars for the PlayStation would be on there. Bloody Wolf for the TurboGrafx.
Nice.
I'm trying to kind of hit like all the systems. Yar's Revenge for the Atari 2600. Flashback: The Quest for Identity on the Super Nintendo isn't the best version, but that's the one that I played the most. So I'll go with that one. Street Fighter Alpha 3. I mean, what's that, like 10 tracks?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a hell of a mixtape, I think.
So, just to kind of clarify here, are we going over music from games?
No, like you're handing somebody like
Well, you said track, so I just started thinking, wait a second, like, is he really talking about like a real mixtape here?
No. I mean, I'm using the terms interchangeably. But I mean, the music in those games is great too. Like that, the music is part of the reason that I love those games as much as I do. So,
Puxor is typing, and he should not be typing.
He's just being a jerk.
So there's that. Yep. Yeah, I could see here. So this one's fairly easy for me. I'm going to run through some titles that I've definitely mentioned many times before. Let's go with Inside. Let's go with Asura's Wrath. Metal Gear Solid 4, Skyrim, Dark Souls 1, Demon Souls, X-Men vs. Street Fighter, and Bayonetta 1 and 2. And I'm going to leave it with that because those games really define what I look for in games, and they define some of my favorite games of all time. So,
I like it.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with those.
I think that's a good list. It's more of an EP than an album, but I like it.
Yeah, people that know me too are going to know why I chose those games. They're very, it's very much me.
Yeah, no, I see that 100%. Let's see here. Vortex says, playing the Goose Game, love it. Trying to do the secondary missions now. They are a lot harder to complete. Also, PUBG as usual, very disappointing in Gears 5. Huge letdown for me. The maps suck. The auto-aim bullshit is annoying. The weapon balances are not very fun. Sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say that I really like Vic's honesty, and I know that he can relate because him and I had mentioned that these days it's not worth trying to like a game and trying to sort of like find ways to be like, well, like it's this way, and it's no. You just don't like it or you like it, and I like the fact that Vic is one of the most honest gamers I think I know, and that's why his library of games that he's rotating is so small. So he's really, I know it sounds kind of trivial, but he's inspired me to be more honest with myself about games. And you and I spoke about this, I think, on the last show too. Like you just gotta be honest with yourself. Like if you don't like a mechanic, don't be like, well, I mean, I guess I can see why they did it, and I guess I'll just have to like find a way to like enjoy it. It's like, no, like if you don't like it, you don't like it. Well, it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. Some of the stuff he's talking about with Gears 5 is game breaking. He was showing me some videos a couple days ago about Gears 5, and like basically the bullets have this magnetism to them where they're following the object that you're shooting at. So there's cases where people are playing and they're shooting at somebody who is running behind cover, and the bullet follows them into cover and kills them. And
that's pretty crazy. So they're not supposed to do that. It's not a special type of bullet or anything.
No. This is just like a straight up gun, and it's multiple weapons too. It's not just one weapon. There was another one where so there was one. That one was a video of a guy using a sniper rifle, and he got the kill. And he's being honest. He's like, "Hey, I should not have had this kill. This guy jumped behind cover. I shot at him while he was behind cover, and he still died." And then there was another one where somebody was running through some tests. It may have been the same person. And they're standing there with the game's default gun, which is the Lancer. And another person, their opponent, is standing and running the same test with them on the other side of a wall. And they're just kind of jumping about, to the left in front of them and then back behind the wall. They're just stepping to the side and back behind the wall. And this person's shooting directly at the wall. They're not moving. And you could see as the person comes out of cover from the other side of that wall, the bullets are no longer hitting the wall directly in front of the person. They're now hitting the person that's stepping out. So imagine like hold up your finger right in front of your face.
Okay.
And pretend that you're shooting a gun right at it. Okay. And behind on the other side of your finger, there's an enemy that's just popping out to the right of your finger.
Okay.
But you're not moving your gun. You're not moving your body. You're not moving anything. You're just shooting that gun, and it's hitting your finger until that person steps out to the side. Now the person's getting hit.
So that's that sounds like a auto aim mechanic flaw. It has to be. I mean, like, what else could that be? Unless it's just something like completely fucked. I don't know. I mean, it kind of reminds me of Demon Souls and Dark Souls has a mechanic that is actually meant to be this way, but the arrows, like if you're getting shot at with from like a bow and arrow from like an enemy, and you're kind of like, I don't know, far away, like you're on a cliffside and the enemy's off in the distance and you're running away or something.
Yeah.
I figured out like many years ago that the bullets actually curve, which
Yep.
is kind of fucking cheap, but like they clearly did that to make the game like piss you off.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure they did it in Dark Souls 1 as well. So I don't know if it's that kind of thing that they implemented and they're hoping that no one notices, but for somebody like Vic, who's a diehard Gears fan, he's going to see something like that. So hopefully it's not them just trying to slide in some weird shady mechanic.
Yeah. It's a bad situation. Hopefully they figure it out and fix it. Because Gears is a really popular game, you know, amongst its circle, and they're going to lose the player base if it stays like that.
They will, and it just overall, it's just really disappointing to hear this because I know how much of a fan he is, and amongst a lot of other people. And like you said, Gears is a huge franchise, so I really hope that whatever game-breaking mechanics are currently there, they can fix them up quick.
Yeah, me too. Regulus says, I finished my playthrough of Baldur's Gate, probably put about 150 hours into it in the last 6 or 7 weeks. Been playing Mario Kart 7 and Civilization Revolution on the 3DS this week since I've been busy at work. Civ is okay. If you've never played it, it's a fairly pared-down version. If you like Civ games, you'll probably like it. A game can be played and finished in 2 hours or so. Have you ever played Civ Rev?
No.
It's a fun game. I remember when it came out on the 360. And they built it basically as Civilization for consoles. And I think they did a pretty good job of it. You know, they streamlined a lot of the processes of Civilization while still keeping that one more turn mechanic kind of in there. And it definitely has a more of a quick play feel to it. But it's if you're used to playing Civilization on the PC, it's really not a good comparison. Like, it's not meant to replace it. It's just meant to kind of supplement it. But they're fun games. You can usually find them pretty cheap. And if you like strategy games like I do, I think Civilization is a good version of a quick strategy game, you know? And by quick, I still mean like, you know, 2 to 4 hours of gameplay. But
yeah,
they're fun.
I've never played. I mean, that counts as like an RTS, right?
No, they're turn-based.
Okay. So a lot of those kinds of games I just really haven't dabbled with. I definitely know a lot of people that did, and it makes me think of those like hardcore PC nerds that are like, yeah, I play Civ. Like, it's just kind of like a thing. It's like a cult. You know, if you say that I play Civ, it's like, okay, you're one of those guys. But
I've lost a lot of sleep playing Civilization over the years. I have not dove into Civ 6. I haven't been doing a lot of PC gaming lately, but when it absolutely is, it lives up to that whole oh yeah, just one more term thing, you know, like people always joke around. It's like, oh man, you know, it was midnight, and I'm like, just one more turn, and then it was 4:00, and that is true. Like, you lose yourself in this game very, very quickly. So I think if you have any interest in getting into the Civilization franchise, I think for somebody like you, Civilization Revolution is a better place to start. I have a feeling you'd be overwhelmed with like a full-on game like Civilization 6 or so. But they're fun games. You know, it has like unrealistic amounts of replayability. Like, you could play them over and over and over and over and over and over again, and every game is different.
That's cool. I mean, I appreciate games like that. I think it keeps them interesting. It's also really refreshing, and it kind of puts a smile on my face to see that, you know, you've been playing Mario Kart 7 on the 3DS. I mean, that's just such a... I mean, me playing Skyrim is kind of archaic in some ways, but like, to read something like that is just kind of cool because it shows that a lot of us are playing games that are not, you know, 2019 games.
Yeah, and that's okay. Like, there's a lot of games out there, man, that you know, deserve our attention. And whether it's something that we've bought and it's been sitting on the shelf, or maybe something that just went on clearance, or you know, maybe something that you've just never seen before, or you bought it and you just never played it. It doesn't matter. Like, there's so many games that just deserve our time and attention. I've been really itching to play Final Fantasy VIII. Like, that's a game that I never really dove into when it came out. I sampled it, I didn't care for it, and I never touched it again. And I would love to spend some time with it, especially now that it's been remastered for all the systems. But like, I just look at my list of backlog games and I'm like, ugh.
Yeah. You get like nervous. You're just like, shit.
Yeah.
Like, should I do this? And it almost becomes like this secret thing. You're like, maybe I'll just wait until like 12 o'clock. Nikki will go to bed. I'll start this game. And it's like, you create this thing in your mind where you're like, I have to play this like secretly. Because like, you feel like you're doing yourself such a disservice of like starting a new game that you know is going to be long. And I think that, it's kind of similar to like my craving to play Tactics. I still haven't even hit start on that game because I'm nervous. I'm nervous that if I like it, it's going to pull me away from everything else.
Yeah, I would say before you start that one, clear a couple more things off the list.
Oh, yeah.
That's a great game, but it is deep.
Yes.
So
yes.
Talk about a game that's one more turn. I mean, if you like Tactics, maybe you will like Civ. I don't know, man. There's differences, but there's a lot of similarities in those games too.
So just to touch on one more thing about Civ, is that kind of one of those point and click kind of games where you're commanding like fleets of...
Yeah.
Okay, so that wouldn't count as like a real-time strategy game?
No, because real-time strategy is everything is happening at once. This is turn-based. So you do all of your moves, then your opponent does all their moves. Think of like a board game. Well, a real-time strategy game, you're building up your forces, you're attacking at the same exact time as somebody else is attacking you.
Okay.
So everything is happening in real time. If you and I were to play Command and Conquer, we could play a round or a game of that in maybe half an hour to an hour if one of us was, far superior to the other one, right? It wouldn't be that long. It could take minutes even if one of us was like good at doing like a rush or something of that nature. But like a game of Civ, like that's going to take some time because you're issuing orders as you're progressing and you're not just directing your armies, but you're also conducting research, you're building cities. So there's a lot more into it. They call Civ and games that are like it 4X games.
4X?
4X because it's, let me see if I can get this right. It's explore. I'm going to have to look it up, but it's all stands for something 4X game. Let's see here. It's like explore, exterminate. It's explore, expand, exploit, and exterminate.
Okay.
Is the idea. So you're exploring to kind of see like what's around you. You're expanding your empire. You're exploiting resources and other empires, and then ultimately you're exterminating them to win.
Okay.
So there's Civilization is a big one. There's a game called Galactic Civilizations, which is by a different company. That's also very popular. Master of Orion is a really popular one from back in the 90s. There's a lot of games that follow this. I think more recently there's games like Stellaris and trying to think of the other ones.
Yeah, I've heard of Stellaris, I believe.
Yeah, that's a really popular one. Twilight Imperium. I'm a big fan of a game called Sins of a Solar Empire, which actually, it's a combination of the 4X format plus a real-time strategy game because everything is happening. You're doing all of those things at the same exact time as your opponents are.
Cool. I mean, I'll have to check it out at some point or something similar because you're just kind of growing up around people that were playing those kinds of games, which I refer to as just like point and click games, and that's fine. It's not an insult. It's just how I retain the experience of viewing that. I've always wanted to try something like that out because it does look kind of thrilling and very like exhilarating because like there's a lot going on. You're going back and forth, and the screen's moving around, and you're pointing, and you're clicking, and your armies are being attacked. And again, that might be more RTS style, but like just I want to experience. Whether it's RTS or turn-based, I want to have that experience at some point. So
I can't recommend it enough, man. It's very fulfilling to see like your master plan come to fruition. But it's also like really it's thrilling in a different way when your master plan just gets fucked and you still come out on top.
I also feel like when your master plan is successful, you kind of cheer in your chair with your arms up like,
oh, yeah.
Yes! And then you reward yourself with like a Celeste pizza for 4 minutes in the microwave. That's how you reward yourself. You come back down, you're taking a break, You're in some kind of chat room with your friends. What was that chat room that we used to always use?
IRC?
You're back in IRC. You're telling everybody that you're eating pizza that was imported from fucking Naples, Italy, but we all know it's just a Mama Celeste or like an Elio's that you heated up for 4 minutes. And you're telling everybody about your success stories. So I want to be that guy. I want to be the Cartman from that South Park episode at some point, the wow episode. I'm sure you're familiar.
Oh, yeah, of course. I have nothing else to add to that.
So, Drew, I have a pretty interesting question for you. So you went to, this past Saturday, you went to a very small convention that no one ever goes to. It's kind of a startup
no one's ever
thing.
Been there.
Yeah, so I think it's called like New York Comic Con. I mean, no one fucking cares, but...
nobody cares about it, yeah.
You went there, and I'm curious, for the fans and for myself here, what was it like?
So this was, let's see here, I actually, in my office, I have all of my Comic-Con badges hanging up on the wall. So this is the 5th year that I've gone, which is pretty wild if you think about it. 5th consecutive year that I've made it to Comic-Con.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, it's definitely getting bigger and bigger every year. Like, you would think that they'd already be at capacity, but I feel like that's not even close to true. I feel like there's more people there every year. And for me, this year was particularly special for a couple of reasons. One, we printed out some promotional material to hand out to people at Comic-Con. So if anybody that got one of our cards at Comic-Con is listening to this, thank you so much for taking the card and not immediately throwing it on the ground.
Yes, thank you. If you still have it, thank you.
We really appreciate it. We wanted to try and spread the word and get some new listeners out there and make some connections with people. And I met some really lovely cosplayers that were gracious enough to let me take their photos. If you haven't, check out our Instagram. A lot of those photos are on there. I've been tagging as many as I can as I see them, or as they message me. So, make sure if you're into cosplay, go follow them, give them some love. They're everybody that I spoke to was really awesome and was willing to take the time to say hi and chat with me a little bit. And it was a really nice experience. So that was special, but also it was super special for me because Sir Patrick Stewart was going to be at Comic-Con, and I'm a fucking huge Star Trek fan. I don't know if I've ever given you that impression in the past 45 episodes, Will.
Not as much as I think that I would have liked. However, this is not really a Star Trek podcast, so I think that's why we've kind of diverted you from heading into that realm, because if you go into that realm, it's going to be a deep dive. Yeah,
this will be a very different show, but I can't talk about Comic-Con without talking about that. So hopefully everybody will kind of bear with me a little bit, because it is kind of crucial to my story.
Sure.
We got there, I want to say we got there about 10 o'clock on the nose. And, it was a pretty smooth entry. I think the trick is not getting there before 10. If you get there before 10, they throw you downstairs in that line and you got to stand there and twiddle your thumbs. But if you get there at 10 o'clock or after, you could just walk in the front gate. They scan your badge, they check your bag, and you're done. Right? No big deal.
Mm-hmm.
So we did that. And then I went with Vic, his fiance, Nicole, and then Vency and his wife, Jen. Vency and Jen went to, and their friend, Vency's neighbor, I think his name was Jeremy. I believe it was Jeremy. I hope I'm right on that. So they went over to stand in line for some kind of exclusive pop or something. But Vic, Nicole, and I actually hung out in the near the main stage because there was a panel for a show called The Expanse, which is another sci-fi show. It was canceled by the Sci-Fi Network at the end of season 3. Amazon picked it up, and they've already been renewed for season 5, even though season 4 has not yet aired yet. It's based on a series of books by an author by the name of James S.A. Corey. It's actually 2 guys using a pseudonym, but it's a great sci-fi series. The books are excellent. The show is excellent. I've been following it since before season 1, and I got to see a panel for that years ago. So I was very excited to have another opportunity to see them do a panel. And they actually debuted the season 4 opening episode at the panel. So we got to watch the whole thing, got to hear some questions. And then unfortunately, immediately after that, I had to go straight to Madison Square Garden, because there were 2 Star Trek panels, that were starting at 1. So that Expanse panel, I think I left at about 12, right? And I went straight to MSG. I walked over, took me maybe half an hour. There were a lot of closed streets, so I kept getting diverted. There's a lot of construction going on in the city for some reason. So it took me a little bit longer to get to MSG than I wanted to, but I made it. And I sat down in my seat, and at 1 o'clock, they started one of two different panels they were doing. There was a panel for Star Trek Discovery, which is the show that's going into its third season. And then there was a panel for Star Trek Picard, which will be debuting next year, and has Sir Patrick Stewart reprising the role of Jean-Luc Picard from Star Trek The Next Generation. I've been at the panels for Discovery for the past 3 years. They seem to be going to Comic-Con every single year. They've done a panel, so I've seen this cast kind of grow. Like the first year I was there, they were like super awkward, kind of like the teenagers that don't want to sit together next to each other in a cafeteria kind of thing.
Sure.
And then last year they were a little bit more bantery, friendly, and everything. And like this year, you can see it's even more and more. So they're growing as a team. But the show's always been really good, in my opinion. They finished up their thing. They showed a teaser for the new seasons coming out. They got off the stage after about 45 minutes. And then Patrick Stewart comes out, and he fucking owns the room, right?
That's so awesome.
This guy, like, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, first of all, the place is packed, right? It's in the theater at MSG, and I've never seen it packed like this before. Nobody comes to see Discovery panels. Like, you get a good crowd, but not a great crowd. This was like no seats left. Everybody wants JLP, man. So
JLP.
Yep, everybody wants JLP. So
yeah, I'm just gonna let that slide. You fucking nerd.
I gotta jot this down for an episode title.
Yeah. Everyone wants to see JLP, man. Jesus Christ. That's like, you're a Star Trek fan when you say that kind of shit, dude.
Oh, man. So
like
anyway,
the days of Beam Me Up Scotty are just over.
Yeah. It's not even close anymore. So he comes out onto the stage, with the rest of the cast from the show. And like, I give everybody that's in this show, a ton of credit for like even being brave enough to sit on stage with him, because nobody gave a shit about any of them. Like there's so many people like that are part of the show, either in front of the camera or behind the camera. They got maybe about 10 of them up on stage combined. And like they asked, they do like a Q&A session and stuff. Every single question was at Patrick Stewart. Every single question. Nobody gave two fucks about anybody else. And like part of that's to be expected because nobody knows who any of those people are yet. The show hasn't aired yet, and a lot of those actors are relatively unknown. But, I still kind of felt bad for them in that respect. But man, let me tell you, he is just so quick and witty and thoroughly British. And I love every bit of it.
Yeah, that's classic for somebody British, man. They have a very tried and true, like dry humor.
Mm-hmm. And this is, that just tried and true dry humor to the T. Like everything about it,
Yeah. Yeah, it reminds me of my dad. He was very, very dry and very British. So
yeah, I love that sense of humor. I love it. It's the greatest thing ever, in my opinion.
Well, it's cool when people can appreciate it because a lot of people can't or just won't. They're like, I don't get it. It's like, dude, just like open up your fucking mind. Like, humor is different in different countries, and this is kind of the way it is there. But that's awesome, man. And it's cool to hear that he commands a crowd. It's hard to ignore somebody like that, even though you feel bad about everybody else that's not getting the same attention. Mm-hmm. I think I would have felt bad too for them.
I really did. They were, I'm sure, wonderful people, and I'm sure as we get to know their characters, there'll be more contributions from them. But it's just, and it just isn't just within that panel that he's commanding the room. Like I've seen, over the 5 years that I've gone, I've seen The Expanse a couple times. I've seen Discovery a bunch of times. I just dropped something on the floor. I've seen.
Let it go.
I'm going to let it go. I've seen Bryan Cranston at Comic-Con, and I think up to this point, he was probably the one with the most gravitas, but like, it's just different, man. I can't explain it. Like, and it isn't just because I'm like madly in love with him, although that's probably part of it.
It's partially true, yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. I think about like pro wrestling. and how pro wrestlers can walk into a ring and stand there and not say anything and elicit a massive response.
Mm-hmm.
Booing, cheering, doesn't matter. They get the response that they want, and they do it without saying a word.
I think a lot of that is because they're at that iconic state where people are almost not only just idolizing these people, but like worshiping them in some ways. And the posters are on the wall at home for the younger people and maybe even some of the older people. And it becomes something that, just a picture alone can express or basically get that same effect that you would get from somebody actually talking or presenting themselves in a different way, vocally. So it just goes to show the power of somebody's presence alone.
It's amazing. So after gushing about Star Trek there, I went back to the Javits Center again. And this is when I kind of started really kind of enjoying Comic-Con, for what it was. And I don't know what, I had a good time there, but it was a little different for me this year because, I was focusing on trying to, hand out the promotional stuff for the show. And in the back of my mind, I went to a couple of the video game vendors, right? And this isn't just for gaming, but it has I think stood out with gaming more lately. Every time I make a purchase, I just start second guessing myself. Or every time I think about buying something, I start second guessing myself. And I'm at a point in my game collection where I think if I want to buy an older game, it's going to be a AAA title, or something that is super popular. Like a copy of Chrono Trigger for the SNES, or one of the Final Fantasy games for the SNES, or maybe a high-end Nintendo game or a TurboGrafx game. And then not only am I going to be looking at something like that, which is already expensive, but I'm going to want the box. I'm going to want the manual. I'm going to want everything that came with it. And now I'm looking at dropping $200 on a fucking video game. And I have a hard time getting around that mental block right now. That's not where my brain is at as far as a collector goes. So I'm going up to all these booths. I'm looking around. And of course, the pricing on them is, a couple of the guys were priced pretty good, but a couple of them were priced, for New York Comic-Con. And that can be pretty expensive. Video Games New York, I think, is a little bit on the expensive side. Gotham City Games wasn't too bad. And there's another guy out of New Hampshire, whose name is escaping me at the moment. His pricing was pretty fair too. But I'm just looking around. I'm I don't really want any of these games. I have an enormous collection that is, mostly incomplete at this point. I really need to knuckle down and play some more of those.
Yeah, I think the real secret and strategy with any kind of convention such as this is you just have to be, like you said, really careful and a little bit more cautious, because it's very easy to become, overzealous with what you're buying. Yeah. And, even though I only went last year, I was able to determine okay, I could spend a lot right now, or I could just get some really unique items that I know I'm probably not going to find elsewhere. And excuse me, that's exactly what I did. I picked up some art prints, and I think that's literally all I got. And I did see some stuff that was really tempting, but I realized that I could probably just get it off of eBay or Amazon. And I know that it kind of takes away from the experience, because you end up becoming that guy that's man, I can just get this stuff way cheaper online. And it's no one wants to be that guy. No one wants to be around that guy. You're going to this convention to buy shit. You're going to walk around.
Right.
You should really buy something. Sure, you can have a great experience without buying anything, but it's good to support some of those vendors that take the time to show up and set up and really set up shop.
So I did end up buying a couple things, but it wasn't anything gaming related. I have a collection of starship replicas from Star Trek from a company called Eagle Moss. And for the past 5 years, when I go to Comic-Con, I pick up a few of those. So that's kind of a thing for me. I look forward to going to Comic-Con. Yes, I can buy those online from them directly, but I like to do it at Comic-Con because it helps kind of keep me in check. I get to see what they look like in person. and I don't like spend too much money. So I bought 2 ships there, and then I bought a couple comic books, also Star Trek, because that's the kind of day I was having. And and I kind of felt weird about like not leaving with anything else. Every other year that I've gone to Comic-Con, I've bought art, or I've bought video games or something. Like, I'm not a huge comic book reader. I'm very choosy in the comic books that I buy. So like the Star Trek books, those are things that I read when I was a kid. I was, kind of excited to get my hands on some new comics. I haven't read those in years, but I never read Superman or Spider-Man. I'm not going to be a poser and pretend that I did. Like, I don't know that shit. So that part of Comic-Con, like, there's these, awesome statues of like Spider-Man. Like, I can appreciate it for what it is, but I'm not going to spend $300 on that. That's not me.
Yeah, and then like it sounds kind of trivial, but it's kind of a relevant thing that can really impact your day. But like you also have to think about like, how am I going to carry this shit around?
That too.
Because like you might see like that giant bust of like Venom's head or some shit, and it's like literally the size of like a human head, and you're like, oh yeah, like, oh dude, the guy said he's going to give it to me for like $250, and normally it goes for $8, so I think I'm just going to grab it. And then like as you're about to check out, you're like, wait a second, like, can I just like leave this here? And like a lot of times I think you can, but there are some times where they don't want you to do that. So then you're stuck carrying a fucking Venom head around, and you have limited bags, or maybe you didn't bring a backpack. So
and you're in a crowd,
you're in a crowd. You're trying to meet up with your friends. You want to go sit down and eat in the cafeteria. You got to put a Venom head on the table and then worry about it getting stolen. So there are things like that. And the other thing that's kind of overwhelming is like, I mean, you know how large the vendor rooms are. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, like, you'll get lost in there quite literally. So,
well, like, I was trying to link up with Vency after I got back, and he's texting me and telling me, oh yeah, I'm by the Funko booth. I'm looking around. I'm like, where the fuck is the Funko booth?
Oh, dude, that was just my experience all of last year.
Well, most of the places, like most of the big vendors, have like some sort of like huge signage that's either way up in the air or literally hanging from the ceiling. So like I'm looking around and I'm like, okay, I know that Funko, generally speaking, has some pretty big art, and they're usually in the main floor, and they were in a different section of the Javits this year. And I'm like, where the fuck is he? I'm walking around in circles, no clue where he is.
You know what we need is drone shuttles.
Explain.
Take a drone. I mean, we might have to hire Elon Musk here to organize this, but take a drone, make it super big, put fucking 5 people on it or whatever, and create a drone shuttle so you can get to your fucking booths more easily. Obviously, this is incredibly outlandish, and maybe in fucking 10 years we're going to have something like this, and we might. But I really disliked the fact that I couldn't find people last year. And like, it was frustrating because like one of you guys might be like, same thing. Oh, I'm at the Namco Bandai booth or whatever. And you look around, you can't fucking find it. You're walking through big crowds that are moving like they're going down a goddamn river.
Yep.
And, you finally maybe see it, and then they're just like, oh yeah, we're not there anymore. And you're like, all right, that's it. Great seeing you for 5 minutes, and we're not going to meet up again.
Well, 2 things on that topic. First of all, that's kind of like I was supposed to link up with Joe from the Discord.
Yeah.
And, he and his fiance, they were there. And I messaged him. He sent me a text message when he got there. He's like, hey, we're here. We're already on the floor looking around. I'm like, great. I have 3 panels I have to go to. So you won't see me until 2:30 at the earliest.
Yeah, it's just really fucking difficult,
and I think he texted me like maybe around 1:00, and he's like, yeah, sorry, dude, we left. I'm like, I feel bad. I really wanted to see him. I wanted to give him some of those cards. But more importantly, I wanted to just chat with him and like have a face-to-face conversation with somebody that I've been talking with on the internet for months.
I know.
And, and I felt really bad because that was like the first opportunity that I've had. And I already had like this to-do list of shit and I wanted to do at Comic-Con. And, at the end of the day, he had to do what he had to do. I had to do what I had to do. And neither of us got to link up.
Yeah. And, honestly, I'm not surprised. And that's not like an insult to you guys. It's just like the fact that I was like, look, I know how it was last year. And there's a good chance that even though I'm trying to promote the idea of you guys meeting up, it's probably not going to happen because there's too many plans. Everybody's going to different panels. Everybody's entering a different way. Everybody's getting there at a different time. Right. Honestly, if I'm going to go again, which I might, I think I would go with obviously you and maybe like the rest of the guys or whatever, and we would have to create a serious game plan. And I know that sounds so like it takes away from some of the fun of it, but like in order to just really have a good group experience, it's honestly the only way.
Well, I was kind of thinking about, Vency, who originally was planning on going Saturday and Sunday. And I think he was using Saturday as his day to like stand in lines and get all the pops that he wanted to get because he resells a lot of that stuff. And then use Sunday as the day to enjoy Comic-Con. And I think like he's onto something. Now he ended up selling his ticket for Sunday. He didn't keep it. But I think he was kind of onto something with that, like use one of the 2 days to like go and see all the things that you want to see and do all the things that you want to do. And then use the other day to like have fun at the con. It's almost like they're 2 separate experiences.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like I walked through the main floor and I walked through it fast. I did not see everything. I did not see every booth. I did not even walk past every booth. I kind of like walked down the center aisle, weaved in and out of a few aisles. And then I was like, at 4:00, I'm like, okay, I'm done. And I think maybe a lot of it had to do with the fact that I literally walked, from Javits. I walked from Grand Central to Javits, from Javits to Madison Square Garden, from Madison Square Garden back to Javits. And then I'm walking all over the Javits Center. I got 21,000 steps on that day.
Jesus. Yeah, I mean, I shouldn't be that surprised because Lauren and I do get, we track a lot of steps. She does more than I do because now I don't really walk as much at my job.
Yeah,
but,
right.
But just going back to Comic-Con here, I was just thinking about my experience last year in comparison with your experience this year. And I feel like it was slightly like, I don't know, not ruined, but it was definitely compromised a little bit because of the fact that I was with her father last year, which is going to sound kind of weird. Like, wow, we went with like his wife's father, but the reason why he likes going is because he likes to take pictures, right? He likes to take pictures.
He's a photographer.
He's a photographer for, that's his hobby. So I thought, okay, like this is not going to be a problem. I like taking photos too. We can do this together. I can meet up with the guys, blah, blah, blah. Didn't really work out that way because he kind of commanded the sort of cadence of how we were going to navigate the show. And I tried to say like, hey, like, all right, Jim, like, well, I'm just going to go meet up with my friends. And, you could tell that he was getting sort of impatient and he wanted to, just kind of blast through the room, and he had his own agenda. So that definitely limited my experience with you guys, as well as, even just meeting up with Joe and stuff. Like I remember, like I finally did meet up with Joe and Bree, and we hung out for a little bit, and I wanted to go back and meet up with them again, but then Jim wanted to go. So it was just kind of like, do I kind of tell him no, like,
right,
or do I be like respectful because like he's the one who drove and all that good stuff. So,
yeah,
it was honestly like being a kid and being with your dad, like quite literally, like even though I was with a father, it wasn't my father and I'm a grown adult. So it unfortunately was the same or the equivalent of being a child and being with your father, kind of dictating the whole experience. So
I think there is something to going to Comic-Con by the train and taking your own car to the train station rather than carpooling with somebody. Because this year we all arrived together and we all left together, but there have been previous years where we've split off and like maybe I just didn't feel well or I was tired or just didn't want to stick around anymore. And I've left early. And I know how to get back to Grand Central. So I just made my way back to Grand Central, hopped on a train, went and got on the train by myself and left on my own terms. And it wasn't anything against my friends, it was just like, I've had enough today. So like I would recommend in the future, if you do go back, put yourself in a position where you can do that. If you want to take the train in with everybody, meet up at the train station, drive your car to Stratford or wherever, meet up at the train station, take the same train together. But now you have the freedom of leaving when you want because you're not like stuck to somebody's car. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's the worst. Once I had my fucking driver's license, that was it, dude. Like, I don't think I really like carpooled with anybody very rarely. And like, I don't give a shit like how selfish that may sound. I hate being attached to anyone, especially when it comes to like them like not wanting to go and I want to go, or
Yeah.
vice versa, and they want to go and I don't want to go, and you're like, fuck.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing worse than being in that situation. I am so glad that I've not put myself in that situation for many, many years.
Yep. So, but anyway, just to kind of wrap up Comic-Con, like I'm really looking forward to going back next year. I'm hoping to go in with I think a different mindset, you know, like this much, like I was just like, I got to see Picard. And then after that, I really didn't have a game plan. And then we kind of started doing the business cards, and that kind of took up the rest of the show for me. You know, but like, I'm also really glad that I didn't spend $400 because,
that's good.
You know, we honestly don't have it right now. I spent $200, but you know,
I cut it in half.
Well, no, because I mean, like I've gone to Comic-Con, and between the train, the dinner, and everything, I've dropped $500-600 in a day.
Oh, dude, easy.
You know?
And like the folks that are not familiar with New York City, and this is not a knock on anybody, but some people just either can't get over there or just have never been. It's a very expensive city. Mm-hmm. So not only is the convention expensive, even just buying stuff from the cafeteria and shit, because you're paying for all the prices. But as soon as you set foot outside and you start going to restaurants and you're catching Ubers and cabs, fucking forget about it, dude. You better have at least $500 on you.
Well, I like to bring snacks with me. I'll bring a bag of like granola bars. I'll bring an apple. I'll bring a banana, stuff that's like non-perishable. So, you know, I go to Comic-Con prepared with enough food to get me by until I can get out of there. And then we all ended up going to this Japanese curry restaurant, which is just out of this fucking world. And I know you're not a meat eater. I don't remember what kind of vegetarian options they had, but like the curry was amazing. Everything about it was just absolutely awesome.
Can you imagine like going to Comic-Con like on a serious budget, like and a food budget too? So you get to like the cafeteria, everybody's got like fucking cheese fries, and you break out like a can of baked beans. With a can opener, and you're just like breaking out like a small plastic Tupperware bowl, and you're just nonchalantly opening your can of beans. You break out some bread like it's fucking Aladdin, dunking the bread in the baked beans, and you're just like, yeah, dude, like, so what do you think of the fucking the Namco booth? And everybody's like, dude, what the fuck? Dude, is that a stick? Are you eating baked beans with a stick?
A stick or an arcade stick?
A stick. A branch. Like you're living underneath a freeway. We made a joke about this on a previous episode.
I remember. I was just thinking like you were talking about Namco booth, and my mind went to arcade stick. Anyway. Yeah, let's move on, because we've been talking about Comic-Con now for 45 minutes.
So you beat a game.
Yeah, I finally beat Untitled Goose Game. This is part of my lazy Wednesday. It was great.
So how long would you say this game is?
I mean, I think if you like knuckle down, you could probably beat it in like 4 hours. You know, if you play it without any distractions, and you just do like everything that's on the list, you know, you don't like fuck around with people, you could probably beat it in like 4 hours.
Yeah.
It's a short game, but it's a lot of fun. There's essentially a new game plus with it, where you could get like, once you beat the game, you do get a list of new objectives, and you get like essentially open world access to the rest of the village. So the way it is like you kind of have these areas. You have a garden, you have a street, you have 2 neighboring houses, you have this a pub, you know, things like that. And there's a list of objectives in each of those sections. And once you completed them, usually a door will open that will give you passage into the next section. But you're all within this one town. You're just kind of going from place to place to place in the town. And then at the end, when you get that new game plus list, now you're mingling between the 2 sections. So maybe you need to take an object from the neighbor's house and bring it over to the pub, or you need to take something from the gardener and bring it to the shopkeeper. You know, all these different ways of kind of changing up the formula. And then there's also a speed run list where it's like, do these things as quickly as possible. And I haven't even begun to like explore either of these lists yet, but it's a tremendously fun game. I cannot recommend it enough. I do believe it's worth the $20 they're asking for it. If you can get it on sale for $15 or less, definitely do it. I don't know if it's still on sale on the eShop at the moment. I bought it for $15 when it came out.
Yeah, that's a pretty good price considering that the game is quite good.
Mm. And there's just so many like little details that to me like really set this game apart from a lot of other games too, because for example, there's a glass bottle that you could pick up, and when you pick it up, it fits over the goose's beak. And now if you start honking with the glass bottle on, it sounds like you're honking through a glass bottle. It's like muffled like a silencer, right? It's got that kind of tinny hollow sound to it. Or there's a guy who's in the pub and he's sitting on a bench playing a harmonica. Well, you could take the harmonica. Now when you honk, you're honking through a harmonica. So it's got that harmonica sound. Or like there's these walkie-talkies that you can pick up. And you can pick up one of the walkie-talkies and kind of hide it in a bush and grab the other one and honk into the other walkie-talkie. And now your sound is coming out of the bush. It's all these like little details that I think are really setting this game apart from other games. It's like this labor of love,
That's cool. I like that labor of love.
And you could tell like everything about this game just feels like a labor of love. Like these guys and gals, they had a great time making this game. It comes through. Anytime I play a game where like the studio knows what they've got special, you could tell.
That's cool. Yeah, I'll get it eventually. I'd like to just, have a game, like I said, I think on the last episode, that I can just dick around with.
Mm-hmm.
And just, have some fun after work and just, honk at some people and cause a ruckus and turn on sprinklers and piss people off. So
I wrote a little bit of a blog on WDGRPodcast.com. It talks a little bit more in depth about the game, but I didn't want to give it I'm not a reviewer. I'm not reviewing games at this point. Maybe someday, but not yet.
Yeah, that's a whole nother project.
Yeah, so I just wanted to kind of talk about my experience and what the game meant to me and why I loved it. So if you're listening to this and it's a game that's kind of interested you, go check out that article. It's called Dear Backlog for October 9th. And that's can't recommend it enough. I'm looking forward to trying some of the other objectives, but I'm glad that I've completed the game. As far as I'm concerned, the game is done.
Yeah. Doesn't it feel good to beat a game?
It does.
And again, we talked about it before the show. It's a short game, but dude, just regardless, man, just seeing credits, to anything, just you're like, God damn, I still can do this. I can still beat a game, and it's just without going off into another topic, it's such a big deal for people like us. For a lot of gamers, man, it feels good. It feels really good.
It really was just empowering. I just felt like, oh yeah, man, I could fucking do this again.
I could do this, dude. Only one more hour. You got bloodshot eyes, and it's 7:30 at night.
Yeah, right.
Fuck, man, I'm so tired.
What was I gonna say? So if you haven't played it, I definitely can't recommend it enough. Check it out. Watch some videos on it. It's a fun game.
Cool.
So I know you've been diving into Skyrim again. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So a lot of people know that I love this game. I really cherish it a lot. The special edition is what I'm playing on PS4, and it's just remarkably good. This actually, I kind of circle back to this after not playing it for a while because I was playing Strider, as some of you people may know, and it's been really frustrating me. So one night, I just said, you know what, fuck this, man. What can I play to just kind of tune out for a minute? So I loaded up Skyrim, and I was like, oh man, why am I doing this? This is not good, because if I get invested, it's going to be game over, because that game really sucks you in. And I can say, fortunately, it has sucked me in, and I know that sounds crazy, because I had this plan in place, and I still have that plan in place on finishing short games and moving on from there. However, I'm having such a blast with Skyrim right now, I don't think I can put it down. And I just kind of dove right in, man. I had so many random quests open in miscellaneous, and then story quests and specific quests that are linked to DLC. And I just thought, you know what, let me just start with miscellaneous. So I started cleaning those up and just kind of going through some small stuff, whether it was killing a bandit and returning a note, or delivering something, or discovering what's going on at this museum and then reporting back to whoever, shit like that.
Yeah.
But that's what makes the game so special, is when you get wrapped up in some of that miscellaneous stuff, you really come across some pretty extraordinary environments and areas in the game, and that's really where you start getting sucked in. At least for me, I get really blown away by some of the the visuals in that game, and just like these random areas where you could be walking on a nature path and you see fog because it's like going from night to morning, and fog is coming through the trees with the new volumetric God rays that they implemented in the SE edition. And you just kind of have a lot of those moments where you stop and stare, and you start really appreciating the game for just what it is and some of the locations. So that led me on another journey to start looking up some of the top most beautiful areas in the game.
Ooh.
And I went on YouTube and I was like, I know I'm going to find something. So I just typed in like top 10 or top 5 or whatever. And I found quite a few videos and articles on some of these areas that you can visit that some people find to be really beautiful. So
yeah.
I went to a couple of them I've already been to already, so I knew about it. Blackreach was one of them, which was pretty cool to see, because I've mentioned my my love for that area before.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that. The music too, right?
Yeah, the music in the game overall, there isn't really a specific soundtrack that's playing in Blackreach. It's fairly specific, but it's not my favorite. Anyway, okay. I looked at the list and I just thought, you know what? I'm going to go here. I'm going to go there. And some of the places I've yet to get to because they're just so fucking far, or I can't figure out how to get there quite yet because they're linked within a quest that I don't have activated. So right now I moved back to Dawnguard, which is all about the vampires, and it's basically a vampire DLC. It was the first DLC that ever came out for the game. And I'm loving it because I'm a vampire lord. So as dorkish as that sounds, I can be the Dragonborn, and then I can also transform into a vampire lord. So I know, like I can't even discuss this with my wife because she'll like divorce me because she's just like,
I'm gonna divorce you.
I know, it's just like whenever
I just talked about Star Trek for 45 minutes now.
Well, see, that's it, dude. Like as soon as you say vampire lord, it makes you think of like I'm pushing up my glasses and I'm just like I'm a vampire lord, like like. Like there's just no cool way of like expressing the fact that this is what I can do, and I really enjoy it because you're super powerful. The mechanics are a little bit janky. They're not so finely tuned, but that's okay. But yes, long story short, I am messing around with that particular DLC. The areas are just mind-blowing. I'm going to try and load some stuff on the Instagram for people to see. And I am trying to trek my way through the quests to get to this one specific area that was on that top 5 or top 10 list. It's called something Vale, like the Uncharted Vale or the Unfinished Vale, some shit like that. And it just looks stunning. Once I saw it on the video, I was like, I have to go there. So that is what I'm going to try and accomplish tonight. I tried doing it last night, and I was unsuccessful because the game is pretty hard at times, so I'm dying a lot, and I'm kind of, not a very high level really for this DLC yet, but I know I can just kind of muscle through it. But overall, man, it has just been such a tremendous experience for me, and I'm so glad that I've moved back to it. And one other thing I wanted to point out is it's kind of a small detail, but just to let folks know like how this game really grabs you, and it makes you kind of just say wow a lot. Last night when I was trying to find this place, not knowing that it was linked to a quest, I was trekking all over the place, over mountains, over like, lakesides and woods and everything, just all over. And I'm in the middle of nowhere, like almost like at the edge of the map of Skyrim. And I was like, man, I'm really far out. And I just see this woman character in the distance, like running through fog. And I was like, oh my God, what is this? This is so cool. And she's like yelling from a distance. She's like, hey. And I'm like, what the hell? And she's like, she comes right up to me and she's like, hey, like, I'm so glad I found somebody. I've been stranded out here for weeks. I've been abandoned by so-and-so, and these bandits, like, captured me. And she told this whole story, and I was like, wow, this is so cool. And she looked like weathered, and like she had like hardly any clothes on. And she was like, I know my way now thanks to you. And that you just see her run off into this distant fog and just disappear. And I'm standing there and I'm just like, I love this game. I just love this game. And it's because it's filled with moments like that just happen randomly, like random encounters. I know Bethesda is really known for this with Fallout and stuff, but like Skyrim just does it so well. And you really get really entranced and lost in the world. And I gotta say, man, it's one of my favorite games of all time, for sure.
That's awesome. I can hear it in your voice.
Oh, dude, I get so excited. I'm so excited to be done with the show. As much fun as I'm having right now, I'm thinking about like I cannot wait to transform into a vampire lord and suck and just suck some more souls out of people and feel so good about it, and maybe reward myself with a Mama Celeste pizza after. It's a really good game, and I like it a lot. Oh my God, dude! I got my hands like together like some little child that's trying to keep his hands to himself. Like I'm fucking jostling my shoulders around. It's ridiculous.
I can picture this now. You're like your hands are all like twitchy and like you're like grabbing at things that aren't even there. And
sometimes like I'll set the mood for playing the game too. Like I'll turn the lights down low and I'll put a fucking candle in front of me.
Yeah.
And just, try to create like a nice experience. And honestly, like I recommend that for people. Like create an experience for yourself, It might sound cheesy to light a candle or to put on, I don't know, like dim lighting or whatever it is that you feel like it's going to set the mood, but
a little bit of Kenny G.
A little bit of Kenny G in the background on your Bose system, but it'll really impact your experience. I promise you that.
Yeah. I'll agree with that, man. Whenever I have an opportunity to, like, I like to just kind of dim the lights. I have like this set of like LED lights behind my TV, and I'll just put those on and let them kind of cycle through, and maybe I'll throw on a candle, have a beer or something, man. It's just it's nice to relax and just have a controller in my hand,
Yeah, I mean, I've mentioned it before. Like, why would you want to play like a cutesy, cozy RPG on like a bright, sunny, beautiful day, like with the windows open and shit? It's not fitting. Like, it's better to play a game like that on like a monitor in like a dimly lit room. Maybe have some snacks nearby, and you got a blanket over you. It's raining outside. Like, it just feels right. It's fitting for the experience.
Totally. I mean, this is today and tomorrow. There's going to be more rain, so. I might be doing it again tomorrow.
Hey, but all the power to you, man.
Yeah, I'm. It's something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. So I'm really glad to have the opportunity.
Yeah,
because I have a 12-hour shift coming up on Saturday, so I won't be doing any game this weekend.
Yeah, use your time wisely, man. I know I am, and I mentioned to you before the show that Lauren is out of town for a few days, so I've been really capitalizing. And she's like, oh yeah, like you're gonna have tons of time, and I was like, oh, you better fucking believe I am. like I was already thinking about like this whole Skyrim mood setup and my vampire lord desires and fantasies. So
can you draw your vampire lord for me, please?
I'm gonna send you like a picture of it or something. So
can we roll for dexterity on this guy?
What?
I mean, we're talking about vampire lords. I'm assuming that you got a D&D character going here, Vampire the Masquerade or something.
Oh Jesus! Well, it's funny. Like when they,
I got some dice you can borrow if you need them.
When they announced the DLC like years ago, I think it was like 2012. I was like, oh my God, it looks so stupid because it showed like the vampire lord kind of floating around because like you have one mechanic where you can run and like slash people, and then if you hit the left stick button in, you can raise yourself up and kind of fly and float and then do some different things. So I remember seeing that in the trailer. I was like, oh, that's so stupid. Like, look how dorky that looks. And here I am, 34 years old in 2019, floating around in a place called Soul Carn or whatever, and I'm a fucking vampire lord.
Soul Carn?
Yeah, it's like Soul Cairn, or like there's an area, I don't remember the name of it. I think it's Soul Cairn.
This is so great.
It's actually a fucking crazy place, dude. It reminded me of that anime Vampire Hunter D.
Okay.
Which is a super dark anime, and there's this place that I'm currently in. If you look up, there's a fucking like crazy black hole tornado hurricane thing that's above you that's just like full of static and electricity. Like I cannot wait to upload some of this off of my tripod to the Instagram so people can see what I'm experiencing.
Yeah, man. Well, you're playing this on the PlayStation, right?
I'm playing it on the PS4. Yep. So
you can, I learned this recently, you can actually take any footage that you record, you can transfer onto a USB thumb drive.
Oh, that's awesome.
So record it on like the best quality you can. and then upload it. That would be great. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, no, I certainly will, man. I want people to see what I'm experiencing because I know it sounds dorky as hell, but this game is truly something special. And for folks that have played, you'll understand.
It sounds like it. So listen, man, we are over an hour, but we had a list of stuff. Like, what else do you want to talk about?
Yeah, let me just put this Vampire Lord tab minimized here. Jesus Christ, that might have been the nerdiest thing I think I've ever said in my life, dude. Jesus Christ. Let me just minimize this Vampire Lord tab. Jeez, what is wrong? So you have been playing a demo of a game on the Switch called NeoCab. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so like I don't know what drew me to this game in the first place, but it's a new game that just came out on the Switch. I think it's been on the PC for a little while, and it's called NeoCab, and it's kind of like a combination between a choose your own adventure and like a visual novel. And you're essentially playing a character who is like an Uber driver in the near future, and it's kind of like a dystopia America. Everything is done in like that kind of like retro wave kind of, purples and blues, and like when you think of bands like Gunship and M83 and the Midnight and all that kind of stuff, like that's the kind of vibe that this game gives off, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that very like 80s synth wave kind of look and feel. And that's what drew me to it initially in the first place. And then I had no idea what to expect. So I'm like, oh, there's a demo. Great. I love demos because then I don't have to pay for anything. So I fired it up, and it's like this visual novel / interactive game where like you're playing a cab driver, and you're starting out by like just basically leaving your existing life behind and going to move in with your best friend who you had a falling out with years ago. But out of the blue, they reached out to you and they're like, hey, let's get back together. And, you packed up your life, you're moving out there, you got nothing left for you where you were coming from anyway. And part of what makes this thing interesting is there's like this kind of war between automation. And so there's, people that are driving cabs, and then there's automated cab services. And it's kind of like this battle between, AI versus humans kind of thing, but it's not like a war in the sense like you're playing like, with guns and stuff like that. It's more of a political kind of battle, I guess you could say.
Okay.
And these corporations are trying to kind of like take over and kind of put their, everything's about profit. Everything's about minimizing their costs. So that automation's a big deal. But you don't really deal with the automation stuff. You just kind of deal with it in your conversations that you're having with people. And as you go and you pick up different people from all over the city, you're listening to their conversations. You're discussing these things with them. You're kind of world building. And you have this bracelet that basically acts like a mood ring that changes colors depending on how you're feeling. So somebody could say something that pisses you off, and that bracelet goes from green, which is happy, to red, which is angry. And now your conversation choices are limited based on your emotions. So if somebody says something, like there's this one scene where a guy allegedly throws up in your car, but he's denying it. And you're calling him out on it. And the more he denies it, the more angry you get. And eventually the conversation just falls into silence. And you're just driving along trying to get out of there as quickly as possible, get him to where he needs to go so he can get the fuck out of your car and you can clean it, There's a little bit of micromanaging with the game as far as like how much gasoline you have, how much money you're earning. And just like any Uber driver, you have to keep your rating up. So you're trying to maintain a 5-star rating at all times. So you have to watch what you say to these people that are in your car, because you say the wrong thing to them and that could tip them off and maybe they'll give you a bad rating. Now you're not going to be able to get as many options for picking up people, or you're not going to make as much money. And that's going to affect how far you can go in the game and do these different things. And the entire time you're running this cab service, you're also dealing with this narrative about what's going on in the city that you're in. Mm-hmm. And it's the demo longer than I was expecting, but it's still short. I would say maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours. It's very conversation driven. It's text driven. There's no voiceover. So if you're in the mood for playing a game that is legitimately like 99% reading, I think it's worth checking out. I found myself really wondering what's going on in this world. I think like the characters are very compelling. I think the writing is very smart. They did a great job with building these personalities using text and very limited animation. And it's something that I'm kind of like, I kind of want to buy it, but I don't know if I want to buy it for $20.
Yeah, 20 is, I mean, that's a pretty substantial purchase.
Yeah. I think it might be on sale for 15 like Goose Game was. But I don't know. I think this is definitely a $5 purchase. Like if this was on sale for, $10 or less, I would give it a lot more serious thought. But I am absolutely interested in knowing where this goes. Like I was very surprised by this game. It's a very simple mechanic, but it's all about the story, and they do a really good job of getting you in the mindset and the emotions of these characters very quickly.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Especially like, I mean, you have a decent experience just from a demo. So
yeah, I was really taken aback by, how much I enjoyed the demo. Like I wasn't expecting anything from this. Like I really didn't think I was going to walk away from this wanting to play more of this game, but I did.
That's cool. I mean, demos are sometimes hard to be like sold on one, and to be sold on the game just from a demo alone. I haven't played, I don't think, a demo in years. Like when I think of demos, I'm still thinking of like demo discs. I think that's really how long it's been. Because they still exist, obviously, but just not. I just feel like statistically, people probably aren't playing them as much.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I remember those days too. I have a couple copies of PlayStation Underground discs around here, so.
Oh yeah, hold on to those.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Absolutely. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, topic-wise, why don't we quickly brush through Doom got delayed, Eternal.
Yeah. March.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, oh man, it's going to crush Drew. And then I thought about it twice, and I was like, maybe it won't, because since Drew is such a big fan of this game, he's probably going to appreciate the fact that they came out with a good message as to why it's delayed. And, if anything, it's probably going to be beneficial. It's one less game to add to the list for the moment.
It is. Like I think from that perspective, I definitely appreciate having it kind of kicked down the line a little bit. But I'm all for any time a developer says, hey, hold up, we're not ready. I think more games need to do that.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad that they did that. I'm glad that they recognized that there was a problem. I don't know what the problem was, but if they're taking more time to make this better, because let me be honest with you, the last Doom that came out in 2016, there's major fucking shoes to fill. And if they don't do this right, they're going to have a lot of people that are disappointed. Doom 2016 is about as perfect as a Doom game can get. And like I have high hopes for this. I know a lot of people that are into Doom do as well. So take your time, make it great. Another benefit of this too is they're going to be including a copy of Doom 64 for anybody that has a pre-order in. Apparently they're not limiting it just to the Switch, like it's going to be multi-platform. So I'm looking forward to playing that. I think that's going to be fun. That'll be a nice little bonus. Get that when that comes out too. And then I'm just gonna have to make a decision whether I'm going to play that or Doom Eternal, I guess. But, yeah, man, it's, I'm okay with it. I'm totally okay with it.
Yeah, I figured you would be. Like I said, at first I was like, oh man, this is going to crush him. But, like I said, on second thought, I think it's the right move. And, Doom can very easily be jacked up because it's very important. It's really quite crucial actually for that game to play smoothly. Because any game like that needs to be ultra refined and ultra smooth, because when you have that kind of fluidity, if it's not there, it's really going to break it.
I have not yet tried Doom on my Xbox One X. It's been something that I've been wanting to do for a little while now. So maybe with the delay, it'll give me more reason to pop that in and give that a run through on the 4K. Yeah,
that'll be sweet. And then lastly, we have, I guess, some sort of announcement or leak. I don't know much about it, but PS5 has somewhat of a release window.
Yep, holiday 2020. Sony posted a blog, I guess late last night, early this morning about it, and they are officially going to be launching PS5 come the holiday season next year. They've announced a couple details about it, but not too much. There is going to be some kind of innovation with their controller. They're going to be moving away from rumble and into haptic feedback.
I like that.
And then they're going to have adaptive triggers, which I guess allow developers to kind of give some resistance to the triggers. So like they use a comparison, so you feel a tactile draw of a bow or accelerating a vehicle through rocky terrain. So between that and the haptic feedback, I think that's really going to help the immersion of the experience significantly, especially if this kind of rolls into VR.
Yeah, I think this idea of expanding on the controller is actually really pretty innovative, because even though the DualShock 4 is great with the speaker and improved rumble and all that good stuff, it would be nice to have them put more attention on the controller, because it's something that we often overlook. And if they can do the haptic right, and they can have those, more of the resistance to triggers, and have them be more adaptable for shooters and just all types of games, as well as having that speaker, I think is still as gimmicky as it is for some people. I love that fucking thing.
Oh, no, it's great.
I love it. And if they can do that and expand on that more, which is going to be more of a developer thing, then I think we could be looking at a really, really special system here.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I wanted to talk about VR with you today too.
Oh, that's right.
I forgot about it.
That's right.
We'll have to save that for the next episode.
Yeah, promise. We'll definitely bring that up, folks. So stay tuned for that.
I did post a blog about that too, with some quick thoughts over on the site, so check that out as well too. But let me just jot that down real quick now, because I would love to chat about it with you in particular, since it was your Oculus Quest.
Yes, and I have thoughts on the VR now that I've had some time to reflect on it as well. So we'll definitely save that for the next show. We'll make a nice 20-minute segment out of that.
Sounds good. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers it for today.
I think that's our show.
Yeah, man. So thank you to everybody for downloading. If you're listening to us for the first time, thank you for sticking with us all the way to the end. We really appreciate it. If we met at Comic-Con, swing on by the Discord, say hi. We'd love to hear from you, and love to hear about your experience at NYCC. Love to hear about, just anything. Just come in, say hi, talk about games with us. That'd be a lot of fun.
Please do.
Find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at WDGRPodcast, at WDGRPodcast. You can find me at ScienceStorm. Will, how can they find you?
Will_gear.
And of course, check out our brand new awesomeness at www.wdgrpodcast.com. It's a lot of fun. We have a website. It's cool.
Yes, I am still in the learning phase, because I am not that in tune with how to make posts, but I'm learning, and Drew will be helping me along the way, so stay tuned.
I am not helping you do shit.
I'm too busy being a vampire lord. But yeah, when I'm not being busy being a vampire lord, Drew will be helping me, and I will be eating Celeste pizzas and making posts about Will's cool games and things of that nature. So you have things to look forward to.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to watching you figure out how to use WordPress.
Oh God, I'll have to film myself.
Yeah, that's something for Instagram Live.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't become what happened with me and the Raspberry Pi and the whole MAME thing, whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing. Anyway, thank you everybody for listening, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.